Welcome, dear listener, to JadeFox Tales, where ancient myths become the dreams into which you softly descend. I'm most grateful for your company this evening and for the quiet moment you have chosen to spend here. Tonight, we journey to the quiet slopes of Mount Fuji in Japan, where myths drift softly through ancient forests and the mountain rises in stillness against the sky. It is a tale of patience, of humility, and of the quiet wisdom that may be found when one listens closely to the voice of the mountain. For in these old stories, the natural world is seldom silent, and those who pause long enough to listen may come to understand what cannot be spoken in words. You need not follow each word too closely. Should your thoughts begin to wander, you may let them do so. And if sleep should find you before the tale has reached its end, you may welcome it without concern. The story will continue, whether heard or not. As the mountain endures, calm and unchanging through the passage of time. Before we begin, let us allow the day to fall gently away. Take a slow breath in and let it go again unhurried. There is no need to guide the breath, only to notice its quiet rhythm. The world beyond this moment may wait. For now, there is nowhere you must be, and nothing that requires your attention. And so, in this quiet interval, we turn gently towards tonight's tale, a story of a quiet mountain and of the spirits set to dwell within its ancient stillness. And now, dear listener, let the body rest, let the mind grow still, and allow yourself to drift as the story begins. In the quiet countryside of Japan, there stands a mountain so perfectly shaped that travelers often believe it was drawn by the careful hand of an artist. Its graceful slopes rise steadily towards the heavens, crowned by snow during the colder months and wrapped in drifting clouds when the seasons grow warm. This mountain is Mount Fuji. For countless generations, It has watched over the villages that rest in its shadow. Farmers bow respectfully towards it when the morning sun first touches its summit. Pilgrims travel long distances simply to walk along its lower paths, and the elder of the surrounding villages tell their children that the mountain is not merely stone and earth. They say it is alive. They say a spirit dwells there, a spirit older than the forest, older even than the villages themselves. But such stories are usually spoken softly, besides evening fires, when the wind moves gently through the bamboo and the world grows quiet enough to listen. At the foot of the great mountain lay the small village of Kawaguchi. It was a peaceful place, surrounded by cedar forests and narrow paths that wound through fields of rice and barley. From nearly every doorway one could see the tall, elegant silhouette of Mount Fuji rising into the sky. Among the villagers lived a young woodcutter named Haru. Haru was known for his gentle nature and patient manner. Each morning, before the sun had fully risen, he would walk into the forest carrying his small axe and a woven basket. There he gathered fallen branches and dry wood that could be sold or used for cooking fires. Unlike some woodcutters who chopped down living trees without care, Haru preferred to take only what the forest had already given. Trees grow slowly, he would often say. It is better to listen to the forest than to rush it. The elders approved of his thoughtful ways, and though Haru lived simply, he was content with the quiet rhythm of village life. One autumn morning, Haru set out earlier than usual. The air carried the cool breath of approaching winter, and the forest was filled with the soft golden colors of falling leaves. Yet something about that morning felt slightly different. A thick mist clung to the lower slopes of the mountain. Such fog was not unusual near Mount Fuji, yet this mist seemed unusually still. It did not drift with the wind. It simply waited. As Haru walked along a narrow forest path, he noticed that the sounds of the woods had grown strangely quiet. No birds sang among the branches. Even the rustling of small animals had faded. Only the faint whisper of wind moved through the cedar trees. Haru paused and looked up towards the mountain. The upper slopes of Fuji had vanished completely behind the pale grey veil of mist. For a moment, he felt the curious sensation that the mountain itself was watching him. The feeling was not frightening, rather it was calm and patient, like the quiet attention of someone who had been observing the world for a very long time. As Haru continued deeper into the forest, the path slowly curved upward along the mountain's lower ridge. Few villagers traveled this way. The ground was uneven, and thick roots twisted across the trail like sleeping serpents. But Haru had always enjoyed exploring the quieter corners of the forest. Eventually, the trees parted slightly, revealing a small clearing that Haru had never seen before. At its center stood a stone shrine. It was ancient. Moss covered much of its surface, and delicate vines had crept along the wooden beams. Two weathered lanterns guarded the entrance, though their light had long since faded. Carved upon the stone gate was an elegant image of a woman standing upon a cloud, her robes flowing like mist along the wind. Haru stepped closer. Something about this place felt sacred, peaceful, almost as though the forest itself had grown quiet out of respect. He bowed politely before the shrine, just as his parents had taught him when encountering old places of worship. "I hope I do not disturb anything," he murmured softly. The mist thickened around the clearing, and somewhere above, hidden among the drifting clouds that wrapped the slopes of Mount Fuji, something ancient seemed to stir. As Haru turned to leave the clearing, a sudden breeze moved gently through the trees. The mist shifted, and for the briefest moment, Haru heard a voice. It was soft, so soft that it might easily have been mistaken for the wind, yet the words were unmistakable. "Thank you for bowing." Haru stopped where he stood. Slowly, he looked back towards the shrine. No one was there. The clearing remained quiet and empty. Yet the mist now moved in slow, graceful patterns around the shrine, swirling gently as though guided by unseen hands. Haru felt a strange calm settle over him. Somehow he knew he had not imagined the voice. The spirit of the mountain had noticed him. High above the forest, the hidden peak of Mount Fuji remained wrapped in quiet clouds, watching, waiting, and somewhere within the drifting mist that guarded its sacred slopes, a presence older than the village had awakened to the kindness of a humble woodcutter. In the days following Harry's strange encounter within the hidden clearing, life in the village of Kawaguchi continued much as it always had. Farmers tended their fields beside the quiet lakes. Fishermen set their small boats upon the still morning waters. Children carried bundles of firewood along narrow paths that wound between the houses, and above them all, calm and unmoving against the white sky, rose the noble peak of Mount Fuji. Yet for Haru, something subtle had changed. For though he walked as he always had, gathering wood and walking the forest paths, his thoughts often returned to the mysterious shrine he had discovered upon the mountain slope, and to the whisper he had heard in the drifting mist. For 2 days, Haru tried to dismiss the memory. Perhaps, he thought, the wind had simply played a trick upon his ears, or perhaps the quietness of the forest had stirred his imagination. But the more he tried to forget it, the stronger his curiosity became. At last, on the 3rd morning, Haru rose before the village had fully awakened. The eastern sky glowed faintly with pale dawn light, and a cool mist rest gently across the valley without speaking to anyone. He set out once more along the forest path that climbed the lower slopes of Mount Fuji. The forest seemed peaceful that morning. Sunlight filtered through the tall cedar trees, casting long golden beams across the mossy ground. Birds moved quietly among the branches, and yet Haru could not help noticing that as he approached the clearing he had discovered earlier, the air once again grew strangely still. Soon the trees parted. There, exactly as he remembered it, stood the ancient shrine. Soft moss still covered its weathered stones. The lantern still guarded the entrance, and the delicate carving of the woman upon the cloud remained etched upon the gate. Haru stepped forward slowly. The mist had returned. Thin ribbons of pale fog drifted gently across the clearing, moving in slow, graceful patterns between the trees. Haru bowed respectfully once more before the shrine. "I have come again," he said quietly. "If there truly is a spirit here, I hope my presence is not unwelcome." For a moment, nothing happened. The forest remained calm. The mist drifted lazily along the ground. Then the breeze returned, not strong, not sudden, just a soft movement of air that stirred the leaves and caused the mist to gather slowly before the shrine. Haru watched in quiet wonder. The fog seemed to rise, to twist, to form a delicate shape within the clearing, and gradually, like moonlight revealing itself through clouds, a figure appeared. Before Haru stood a woman unlike any he had ever seen. Her form was soft and graceful, as though shaped from mist and pale morning light. Her robes flowed gently around her, like drifting clouds upon the mountainside. Long dark hair fell across her shoulders, moving slightly, though no wind touched it. Her eyes were calm, deep, and filled with a quiet wisdom that seemed older than the forest itself. Haru lowered his gaze at once, bowing deeply. "I apologize if I have disturbed you," he said. A gentle voice answered him. "You have disturbed nothing." The voice was the same one he had heard before, soft, patient, like the whisper of moving wind through distant trees. Haru slowly lifted his head. "Are you the spirit of this shrine?" he asked. The woman smiled faintly. "I am a guardian of this mountain." Her gaze turned briefly towards the towering slopes of Mount Fuji, whose snow-crowned summit was now just barely visible through the drifting clouds. "In the old stories," she continued, "I am sometimes called Konohanasuki Yahime." Haru had heard that name once before. The village elders occasionally spoke it during festivals celebrating the coming of spring. "The Princess of Blossoms," he whispered. The spirit inclined her head gently. For a few quiet moments, neither of them spoke. The mist drifted peacefully through the clearing. Birdsong returned to the forest, as though the woods themselves had grown comfortable with the spirit's presence. At last, Haru asked softly, "Why did you speak to me?" The spirit's gaze rested kindly upon him. "Because you showed respect. Many people walk these forests," she said, "but few pause to greet what they do not understand." Haru felt slightly embarrassed. "I only followed the manners my parents taught me. Kindness often begins in small habits," the spirit replied gently. She stepped forward, her feet making no sound upon the mossy ground. "The mountain watches all who live beneath it," she continued. "For centuries, the people of this land have honored its spirit." Her gaze drifted towards the distant valley where the village rested peacefully. But as generations pass, such memories can fade. Haru thought of the villagers below. Most of them respected the mountain, of course, yet few truly believed that a living spirit guarded its slopes. "Does the mountain grow lonely?" he asked quietly. The spirit smiled again. A mountain does not feel loneliness as humans do, but it does remember. The wind shifted gently through the trees. Petals from a nearby flowering branch drifted slowly through the air, though the season for which blossoms had nearly passed. The spirit watched them fall. There may come a time, she said softly, when the people must remember the balance between themselves and the mountain. Haru listened carefully. For now, she continued, simply keep this place with respect. Visit the shrine when you walk the forest. Speak kindly of the mountain to those who listen. Haru bowed once more. I will. The spirit's form began slowly to fade back into the drifting mist. But before she vanished completely, she looked at him once more. Haru, she said gently. Yes, he answered. You are welcome here. Moments later, the clearing returned to its quiet stillness. The mist drifted peacefully across the ground. The shrine stood silent among the trees, yet Haru felt no doubt about what had just occurred. He had spoken with the ancient guardian of Mount Fuji. As he walked back towards the village that morning, the great mountain rose clearly into the brightening sky. Snow gleamed upon its summit. Clouds moved slowly around its slopes. And for the first time in his life, Haru felt certain that the mountain truly was watching over the valley below. Patient, ancient, and quietly alive. In the days that followed Haru's encounter with the guardian spirit, the forests in the mountain seemed unusually alive. The gentle morning mist clung more softly to the slopes of Mount Fuji, and even the simplest sounds, rustling leaves, bird song, the distant trickle of streams, carried a certain clarity, as if the mountain itself were listening. Haru rose each day before dawn, as he had always done, yet now his walks along the forest paths were not solely for gathering wood. They became pilgrimages of quiet curiosity, a journey to observe the subtle rhythms of the world around him, and to ensure the shrine remained tended and respected. One morning, As Haru followed the narrow trail towards the clearing, he noticed something unusual. Small buds appeared upon branches that had long been bare, and delicate flowers bloomed where winter's chill had only moments before touched the ground. Though the villagers would have dismissed this as a trick of the season, Haru understood better. "The mountain is speaking," he murmured softly to himself. The guardian spirit, the gentle Konohana Tsukuya Hime, had once spoken of balance, of the care the mountain required from those who dwelt in its shadow. And now, in these tender signs of life, Haru perceived a message. The mountain was alive, not only in body but in spirit, reacting to human thoughtfulness and negligence alike. Yet not all was calm. One evening, while returning to the village along the winding path, Haru felt a sudden shift in the air. A harsh wind swept down the slopes, bending the young cedar trees and sending dry leaves skittering across the trail. The mist swirled thickly, almost purposely. The shadow deepened unusually among the trees. Haru paused, gripping his axe gently. "Something stirs upon the mountain," he whispered. And then he heard it. A distant rumble, low and resonant, as though the very bones of Fuji were speaking in warning. It was not thunder, though it bore a similar cadence, nor was it an avalanche, for the sound rolled endlessly without end. It was a language older than memory, spoken by stone and cloud and spirit alike. Haru knelt for a moment, bowing his head. The lessons of respect the spirit had shared with him weighed heavily in his mind. "The balance must be maintained," he murmured, recalling her gentle words. The next morning, Haru set out once more for the clearing. Mist clung to the forest floor in soft, curling ribbons, guiding him as if by invitation. As he approached, he noticed a faint glow upon the shrine stones, subtle but unmistakable. He stepped carefully into the clearing. The air was thick with anticipation, and then she appeared. The guardian spirit rose before him, more luminous than ever, her robes flowing in slow arcs that seemed to match with the morning mist. Her presence was calm, yet imbued with the weight of the mountain itself. "Haru," she said, her voice as soft as petals falling upon a stream. "The mountain speaks, and it grows uneasy. The forests above the village have been trampled beyond care, and the streams have grown crowded with debris. Humans forget that all life upon this earth is intertwined." Haru's heart sank. He had only known kindness and patience in the forest, yet he realized that not all villagers shared his attentiveness. "What can I do?" he asked humbly. The spirit's gaze rested upon him, serene yet commanding. "Teach them," she said. "Show them the ways of respect. Guide them to care for the streams, the trees, and the soil. Only then will the mountain's balance be restored." Haru nodded and bowed deeply. "I will," he promised. And so he began, quietly and patiently, teaching those willing to listen. Children learn first, carrying stones to mend small dams and planting seeds beside the streams. Fishermen learn to gather only what they needed, leaving the water clear and untroubled. Even elders who had once doubted the ancient tales found themselves speaking of the mountain with reverence. Little by little, a harmony returned to the slopes and the valleys of Fuji's shadow. The guardian spirit would occasionally appear in the morning mist, silently observing the villagers' effort, a quiet approval upon her face. And when Haru looked upon to her, he felt the same calm reassurance he had the first day he had met her. One afternoon, Haru rested upon a moss-covering stone near the shrine. The sun filtered softly through the cedar boughs, painting dappled patterns on the ground. He watched the mist drift across the clearing, now warm with the light of the late sun. The mountain stood immovable, timeless, yet alive with the gentle rhythm of its forests and streams. Haru understood now that the spirit was not merely a protector of the mountain, but a teacher of balance, patience, and quiet attentiveness. The world below might rush and stumble, but those who cared could restore its fragile equilibrium. And he, a humble woodcutter, had been chosen to witness it and to guide others in its care. As evening fell, Haru returned to the village. The air was cool, carrying the faint scent of cedar and blossom. Mist curled along the forest paths and the slopes of Mount Fuji, and he imagined the spirit moving among it, watching and guiding. That night, before sleep took him, Haru whispered a quiet prayer of thanks, feeling the gentle presence of the guardian spirit nearby, soft as a cloud around the mountain peak. He understood with clarity and calm that the mountain watched over him as much as he watched over it. And in that peaceful understanding, Haru drifted into the kind of slumber that was deep, restorative, and filled with dreams of flowing mist, flowering trees, and the silent wisdom of Fuji's eternal slopes. The days slowly turned into weeks, and the village of Kawaguchi began to thrive under a new sense of care for the forests and streams that lay in the shadow of Mount Fuji. Haru had become not merely a woodcutter, but a quiet teacher of respect and attentiveness. Each day he walked the forest paths, observing the streams, tending fallen branches, and guiding children and elders alike in the way of balance. The shrine upon the mountain slope remained sacred, softly illuminated by the morning sun and guarded by the ever-present mist. And through it all, the guardian spirit of Fuji, the gentle Konohana Tsukuya Hime, watched with quiet approval. One serene morning, as the first pale light of dawn crept across the valley, the villagers gathered at the edge of the forest. Haru led them carefully along the winding path through the clearing, where the shrine stood, moss-covered yet dignified. The villagers brought offerings, bowls of rice, small bundles of blossoms, and incense to send their prayers skyward. The air was still. The mist moved in gentle swirls, curling around the lanterns and stones of the shrine, and then softly it happened. a guardian spirit revealed herself. She appeared luminous among the drifting fog, her flowing robes blending seamlessly with the morning clouds. A hush fell over the gathering. Children and elders alike bowed in reverence, their hearts filled with awe. "Your care has been noticed," she said, her voice calm and warm. "The balance has been restored." The villagers felt a subtle warmth pass through them, a quiet assurance that all was as it should be. The spirit gestured towards the mountain itself. Mist lifted gently from its slopes, revealing the snow-capped peak bathed in soft golden light of sunrise. Petals of delicate cherry blossoms drifted in the air, appearing where winter had recently reigned. "This mountain has watched over your people for centuries," she whispered. "Its strength, its patience, and its wisdoms are gifts to those who honor it." Haru stepped forward, bowing deeply. "We are grateful," he said humbly. The guardian's eyes softened. "Then remember," she said, "to carry this care forward. Share it, and the mountain will always watch kindly over you." With a final, serene smile, she slowly faded into the morning mist, leaving the clearing quiet yet radiant, as though her presence lingered in every rustle of leaves, in every drifting wisp of fog. From that day forward, Kawaguchi flourished. Streams ran clear, forests grew strong. The villagers learned to walk lightly upon the earth, planting seeds as often as they harvested them, and treating every creature and tree with gentle respect. Haru continued his quiet work, now joined by children who had grown under his guidance. They would walk the forest paths together, speaking softly, tending to the forest, and leaving small offerings at the shrine whenever they passed. The mountain stood as it always had, majestic, patient, and timeless. But now, beneath its slopes, the harmony between humans and nature had been restored. Many years later, Haru would tell the story of the the guardian spirit to his own children and to the children of others in the village. He would speak of the delicate mists, the sudden blossoms, and a gentle voice that had taught him the importance of balance. Remember, dear listener, he would say, the mountain watches. It is patient, it is wise, and it rewards those who act with care and kindness. And in the still hours of the night, when the moon rose high over Mount Fuji, the villagers would sometimes see a wisp of mist swirling gently above the shrine. A soft, quiet reminder that the guardian spirit remained ever watchful, ever protective, and always calm. The mountain had shared its blessings, and its wisdom would endure for generations to come.